Welcome to Threads of Sustainability, where you get to hear the passionate, informative, and engaging conversations of creatives, makers, manufacturers, and producers from all over the globe. We explore what sustainability can look like in the quilting, fiber, and textile world, and I'm your host, Bridget O'Flaherty, also known as the Sustainable Quilter. Welcome to the show today. Today I'm going to be talking with Eliu Hernandez, and he is a textile artist down in Dallas. And he specializes in and is obsessing over reclaimed materials. And he uses original designs. His sewing and quilting seem to keep his itchy hands and itchy brain in check, is how he phrases what he does. So he uses it as a bit of therapy for himself and a bit of a way of having a mindful practice. And we talk a lot about mindful practice today and talk about some of the different tools that he uses in terms of how he deconstructs what he's working on and the handwork that he does. And we talk about collections and hoarding and all kinds of different ideas around, the life of being a textile artist. The connection to sustainability with Eliu really starts with that self, with that mindful practice and the people part of the people profit planet. We have to put ourselves in a good place in order to be able to help our communities and to be able to actually affect change. And so Eliu is really starting with that with himself. He also is using upcycling, recycling of denim, so he's doing his part on the environmental piece as well. Anyway, I hope you enjoy the conversation today. Welcome to Threads of Sustainability, and you're coming to me from Denver, Colorado, which is a long way away, but not for other people who live near you. Just for me, because I'm way up here in Canada, and yeah, it's really, really nice to be able to talk to you and dive into what you do a little bit.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited, and sorry it took me so long to get back and schedule this meeting.
No, it's perfect timing. Okay, first of all, tell me what it is that drives you to do the recycled, upcycled textile work that you do. Tell me what's the motivator for you for that?
Initially, the motivator was just getting started in textiles on a budget. And It's like clothes that I had in my closet or 99-cent day at the thrift store was one of the cheaper ways to harvest materials or to get materials. And now that has evolved. My motivating factor has evolved into putting a message out and getting other people not so much doing things, but just a little shift in their thinking, trying to get people to think a little different in a subtle way when they see some of the stuff that I'm doing, whether it's quilting or making stuffed bears or making pouches or making thimbles, because all of those things in my context is using some sort of reclaimed material at its core, at its majority. And I'm trying to get to a place where I'm using less new and more used. And I've gotten to a point where I've made some things entirely out of reclaimed materials, entirely out of reclaimed materials.
And so like when you're talking entirely, you're talking like when you pull apart a pair of jeans, you're taking apart the thread and saving the thread and reusing that, right?
Yes.
Wow.
And that's what I say. Entirely made out of reclaimed materials. There are some things that I haven't been able to finish entirely out of reclaimed materials, but I'm moving in that direction. I'm trying to get closer and closer to that goal.
That's amazing. And so have you, like, textiles, why textiles for you? How did you get started into textiles? Was it sort of family? Were you doing this younger, or was this something you found later as an adult?
Yes and yes. My mother was a sewist, and she focused on clothing for us, clothing for others. And in her later years, she was making dresses for kids in Africa. And so she taught me how to thread a machine, and she taught me how to sew a line, the basics. And at the time, it was interesting because it was novel, but it didn't really catch my attention. And so fast forward to my adult life, my wife and I were living in an apartment, and apartments are not conducive to other sort of craft activities.
No, you can't hoard in an apartment.
It's tougher to hoard in an apartment. Yeah. And so I was interested in I've always been interested in making things, taking things apart, reassembling, remaking, those kinds of concepts. But I was hoping to get into woodworking, and I tried to do that in an apartment setting, and it wasn't working.
Right.
And so I needed that outlet in that sort of environment, and sewing with this much space on the dining room table, getting talked to by my wife about the threads and about the messes that I was leaving in our shared area. Even with those restraints, it felt a little more comfortable to make in that sort of environment. And so there's been a couple of influences that way.
Yeah. So kind of the small space sort of pushed you in that direction of having something a little more portable, a little more compact.
Yes.
Yeah, I get that. And so tell me a little bit about, like, you kind of really came to this where you're at now, really in the last few years. So what were, like, you're always just kind of doing it more in a hobby way. What do you do in your life that's not this?
Well, I wear a few hats.
Okay.
I am a husband. We'll be celebrating 9 years of marriage.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. We'll be celebrating next week. And then I work as a chiropractor. We have a daughter who's a little over 2 years old now.
Sweet.
So those activities, those roles take on the vast majority of my life. And while this was a bigger part earlier in life, it is secondary, tertiary. It's down the line a little bit in the way of priorities.
But I find that really interesting because I have a day job as well. And then I have my art outlet, and I need that. Like, I can't, it's not just, it's a hobby, but for me, it's bigger than a hobby. It's really is an integral part of my mental health and well-being. And I need to be able to be playing with fiber and textile and talking to people who are playing around with textiles and fibers, because it just feeds me in a way that allows all of that other stuff to be, that stuff's really good too. And without this piece, it wouldn't be okay. The other stuff would be harder to do. And you feel that too?
I feel the exact same way. I just don't have time at the moment to dedicate as much as I would like to.
Right.
To this side of things.
That's always the challenge, right?
And the ideas are always pouring out.
Yeah.
It's other resources that are very limited.
So how do you organize all those ideas? Like, I have 1,000 ideas, and I feel like my bag is getting really full right now, and I got to figure out how to, like, put them in order. I haven't figured that part out.
I mentioned to you before we started recording that I have a set of marbles, and the marbles should be contained in there, and they're all over the place on most days. But when you're talking about ideas and how I organize them, sometimes they come and sometimes they go. And if they linger for their what I consider their value or their interest or their attention, I'll jot it down or I'll punch it into my phone. And sometimes it lingers enough to make a home in there. And it bugs the heck out of me until I either start or think about it or start planning or gather materials. And sometimes the ideas don't let go. And so I gotta get there. And even if I wanted to forget it, there's no way I would forget it.
It's almost like ideas are like their own entity, right? And they have found a home in the person that they're they're like, no, you need to do this. You're the one that this is destined to. And we've got to pay attention to that. We've got to be aware of how important that idea is, because it really is speaking to our essence. And we're the ones that need to bring that one forward. I think ideas almost have their own life. And if you don't actually pay attention to them, then they go on to somebody else eventually, and the ideas will leave you. But if you can actually give them the space that they need, then they become really great things. Yeah. Anyway, that's a whole other side topic.
Yeah. Well, let me give you a for example, because about 12 or 15 years ago, as I was going through a thrift store, this caught my attention, and it was a pair of women's pants that had a zipper from the hip all the way down to the ankle. And I was like, oh, I need those zippers. I can harvest them. I can use them. I can do something with those zippers. And I bought the pair of pants just for that. I think it was 12 years later where I'm like, I finally know what it's going to be. And it's a piece that I've been working on recently now, and maybe I can get far enough away to where you can see it.
Oh, but my God, that's so good. Describe that. Yeah.
It's a denim quilt with a fleece thrifted backing. And then it's two panels that you can see you can see in the picture, connected by a single zipper that will take it apart and put it together. And those are only two of the three panels that I'm actually doing. So the two zippers connect three panels, and I'm in the process of hand quilting it now. But it's like to your point, where sometimes the ideas have life of their own, and it's a matter of corralling it and nurturing it and
yeah, totally. Yeah, I have several of those things sitting around. It's like, I know I'm going to do something with that someday. It just hasn't shown itself yet.
Yes.
Yeah, I've totally got that. I have a box full of pearls.
Ooh.
That I was given, and I haven't figured out how I'm going to use them yet, but they're just so beautiful. And there's this long string, and I'm just like, I have to figure out something will come at some point. And the box sits there, and it's just, I know it's there. And every once in a while I think about it. No, I'm not ready yet. It'll come.
I trust that you will do something good with those pearls.
Yeah, I think so. I don't think they're real pearls though. I think they're just fake pearls, but they still are really pretty.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me a bit about the process. Like what we're seeing from you now is these denim quilts. So tell me about that process of what do those look like? Why denim? What's going on with that?
Denim for me has also been an evolution. It started with khaki pants. It changed to shirts, cotton button-down shirts. I've used bed sheets. And more recently, in I would say the past 6 or 7 years, it's grown into denim. And denim is currently maybe a healthy, maybe a not so healthy obsession with me at the moment. I love denim. I love how it looks. I love its versatility. I love how it wears down and how it breaks down. And there are a lot of things that appeal to me about denim, and that's where I've focused a lot of my attention now. And early on, I was using my own jeans and thrifted jeans. And in recent years, I've become the guy that people bring their jeans to.
Right. Do you have a large stash of jeans? You do?
Yeah. This space right here is the only neat wall in my sewing area.
You have a 3x3 space behind you. That's it.
But I can't turn more than I can't turn in any direction without seeing denim in my sewing space. Some of it is organized neatly according to color or according to where it's been deconstructed or the stage of deconstruction. And then other things are just piled and thrown into different corners. I've got a bag full of harvested thread spools. I've got leather patches. I've got a bag full of zippers at the moment that I'm looking at right now. I've got a stack of back jeans pockets. And so, yeah, I've got denim everywhere in this space.
That's amazing. And so you choose some really interesting words. You choose the words deconstructed and harvested, and they have such positive connotations rather than saying tearing apart and reusing, I guess, is kind of positive, but the harvesting, I love that terminology, just in that it's an abundance and it's creating more possibilities. It's got a really amazing, I love that connotation behind that, using that term. It's really good. Tell me a little bit about that deconstruction process. What do you do? So somebody sends you a pair of jeans. What do you do?
I find my seam ripper, my trusty seam ripper, or one of the dozen.
Do you have like a special seam ripper? You have a favorite?
Yes. And
okay.
It's the cheapest one from the big box.
Really?
because these break on me regularly.
Okay.
The heft of the materials that I'm working with.
Sure.
And so by being able to get these in not necessarily bulk, but I buy several of them at a time. I have one in each of the cars. I've got two at the office. I've got one in almost every single room here, because when inspiration strikes, I need it accessible.
Sure.
And even then, sometimes I'm fishing for one longer than
you never seem to be able to find your seam ripper. I got this at a craft, like an art show, and it's this beautifully turned dowel, and then on either end it has a removable seam ripper, and they're two different sizes. So I've got a great big one and then a small one.
Oh, it's beautiful.
It's so lovely. And the weight of it is so great to use. I hate having to pull out my seam ripper, but sometimes I do.
Did I hear a click? Is there a magnet?
No, it's not magnetic. It just fits really well. It's like a friction fit, and it clicks in and holds really nicely. I love it. It feels really good in my hand too. But I don't do the same kind of deconstruction that you do. It might actually be hard on me if I was using it all the time.
Yep. And so the size and shape, the availability of the seam rippers that I use, that's one of the reasons I use those.
Okay. So we were talking about the deconstruction process. So you get your seam ripper, and then what?
Get my seam ripper, and then I start going. And then I start going to town.
Where do you start in one part of the jeans over another?
Yes, it usually depends on what I'm trying to do. If I don't have an end goal in mind, I will start at the waistband.
Okay.
And the waistband is super interesting, because if you pick apart a few stitches at one end of the waistband, in most traditional jeans, you can get to harvest some of those, some of the thread. It's called chain stitch, and it's a slip stitch of sort where you can pull it apart.
You're able to save both sides of that stitch then.
It depends. It depends on the age and wear of the jeans.
Okay.
They're old and ratty throughout. There's a chance that the thread is frayed and it's worn, and it's easy to break. If it's an area of the jeans that has not been worn down, then the thread is usually more harvestable.
Okay. And how do you reuse thread in what you're reconstructing?
There's a lot of applications. The way I use it is I save it onto scrap business cards, and then I'll use it to hand quilt. I'll use it to mend. I'll use it to accent, and sometimes it talks to me in different ways and different applications. But those are the big ones that I.
Okay, so you're not putting it in your sewing machine and using it in your machine.
That's an interesting question too, because I have played around with that.
Okay.
And it's not as easy to work with.
No.
Because when I do harvest it, it comes out kinked. And so there's a zigzag component to it. And so When I harvest the thread, I give it a good solid tug. And that tug does two things. One, it tests the integrity of the thread for me. If it breaks, then I won't use that thread, or I won't use that section of thread, because that's also a factor. Two, for the tug, is it straightens it out for me. And I've had discussions like in the last few days on how to straighten this kinked up thread, and people are suggesting wetting it and ironing it with your with hair iron. The traditional iron. And the way that works for me the best is just giving it a good tug. And it doesn't completely straighten it, but it takes
most of the kink out.
Most of the kink out.
I have to say that you inspired me, because I talked to you, and you and I were on the Quilt Alliance Quilters Take a Moment panel talking about sustainability in quilting. And you were talking about harvesting and reclaiming threads and that kind of stuff. And I have this process of felting wool with my stitching that I do. And I get the wool from my neighbor who has sheep, and he brings it over to me in this large, like really big jute bag. It's gigantic. And I've gone through, usually there's about 20 fleeces or so in each bag. And I know, right? It's huge. Like, this bag is literally 4 feet wide and probably 20 feet long. Like, it's big, and maybe not quite that long, maybe 15 feet long, but it's big. And I take all the fleece out and wash it. When I get to the end of it, then I have this giant bag, and I washed it because I didn't want to get rid of it because it's this beautiful piece of material. I didn't know what I was going to do with it. And then I started doing some quilting recently for a show, and the quilted batting part is a hand felted batting from that wool. And then behind that is the jute. And so I deconstructed the bag and I saved the thread. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but I saved it.
Yes. Well, the idea will come to you eventually.
And I never would have thought about saving thread before. I used to just do that rip down the middle and cut both threads. So there was just little shards of thread left, and I would throw those out. And now I'm like, oh no, there's a way to undo all of this. And I was able to do and actually get it all out. It was really exciting. And so I wrapped it all up. I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do with this, but I'm going to do something eventually. And then it was you totally inspired me to do that.
Oh, thank you. That is so satisfying.
Oh, it felt so good.
And what a wonderful resource. What a wonderful neighborly thing to do. And I'm looking at your piece, and what a great application as well. That's great.
Yeah, it just feels like it really connects it to the land. It's connecting the art back to the land. Of course, I'm representing nature in the piece as well, but the whole composition of it is connecting to the land. And that to me is a really important part of my art, is bringing those connections to our land and having people have that understanding of that circularity.
I love it. Yep.
Yeah. But we're talking about your deconstruction. So we were talking about the waistbands, and that's a really exciting part. You said you love seeing the waistbands. Talk to me a little bit more about that, because you've done some specific quilts around waistbands, right?
Correct. And waistbands are, well, let me back up, because I consider myself a collector. Marisa, my wife, says I'm a hoarder, and I think we're saying similar things in slightly different ways. When I deconstruct anything, I try to save as much of the original piece as possible, whether it's broken tiles, or game board pieces, Scrabble tiles, things like that. And so that's extended into deconstructing jeans, where I save the zippers, I save the rivets, I save the leather patches. I've been saving the thread and the pockets and other aspects of those jeans. And when I've talked to people who make things out of jeans, waistbands are one of those things that get tossed early in the process. It's a waste material.
Right.
And so for me, as a collector, those were piling up, and I needed to do something with them. And they're so beautiful in the color and the wear and the holes and the fades, all of those aspects. And so I just started putting them together and started making a tiny tapestry and then larger sections of that same tapestry. And it inspired me to do something bigger, because my first waistband quilt was 4 by 4 feet, and it took about 25 waistbands.
Wow.
The next one that I ended up making, because I had so many, took up, I think, almost 90 waistbands, and it came out to a queen size quilt. And so I've made 4 total since then, and I still have piles of waistbands around this sewing space.
Amazing. I want to take a minute here to thank you for listening to the podcast. I've loved being able to have these interviews and meet people around the world doing things around sustainability. I also wanted to invite you to check out my offerings on my website. I do a guest speaking lecture, and it's a Zoom lecture or in person, and I talk about sustainability in quilting and textiles and talk to guilds about ways they can introduce that into their own practice in fairly simple ways, and taking a look at that people, profit, planet lens on the work that we do. And most often quilters are already doing most of the sustainable things, and it's just having an awareness and bringing it into your practice in other ways helps set the stage for a more sustainable planet. You can find that information on my website at bridgetoflaherty.com, and I would love to come and speak with your group. So let's get back to the conversation with Eliu Hernandez. Okay, so we were in the middle of talking about, well, we just finished the conversation talking about your waistband quilts. And so you've entered some of those quilts into competitions, right?
Yeah. I've had one hanging in one of the local quilt museums here in the Denver area. And I had the big quilt, the big queen size quilt.
They did a queen size waistband quilt.
It was enormous. It carried a great amount of weight, of heft, and a great amount of my life. I think it took me over 1.5 years to finish that.
No kidding.
But that one got accepted into QuiltCon 2020, if I remember correct. Yeah.
Okay. Nice. And where is it now?
It is.
Oh, you have it still. Look
right
at that.
Here, yeah.
Oh my God. And is that silk that's on the back?
It's shimmery, but it's not silk. It's a cotton thrifted bedsheet.
Nice. It's very beautiful. It's a purple, right?
Yep, a little lavender color. Thank you.
Okay, so we were talking about denim and what led you to denim. And you said you'd started really working in khakis and other upcycled materials, and then your sister's wedding happened.
That was the start of my quilting journey, and that was a quilt made with khakis. That was my first quilt. I was making bags at the time with khaki pants, and I had leftovers. And Marisa said I was taking up her closet space with those leftovers, and that I needed to do something, or that she would do something with those.
Oh no!
So that prompted
That's a motivator.
That was definitely a motivator, and that prompted me to work on my first quilt for my sister for her wedding, and that went over really well. But the process, the finished piece went over really, really well. But the process is what got me hooked. For a person who has itchy hands and itchy brain, there's this wonderful meditative quality to doing things over and over and over again that really appealed to me.
And so tell me about the kind of quilt that you made. Like, was it a traditional pattern? Was it scrappy? Like, what was it?
There was a scrappy element to it. I don't think I've ever used a pattern to make a quilt. Everything has just been pieced together, and free form. And it was scrappy. It was a bunch of different rectangles and squares, leftover leg pieces from those bags that I mentioned.
Okay.
And she has her own creative side, and she designed her own save the dates and her own invitations for her beach Mexico wedding, and she made two little tropical colored fish swimming in the same direction. And I blew that up and used that as a small corner, small accent piece in the brown, sandy, khaki colored quilt. And yeah, it turned out really well.
And so that launched you on your journey of this reconstruction, deconstruction process that you've really done a deep dive into.
Yes, a deep dive into.
So talk to me a little bit more about that meditative quality for you and what that does, because this is really talking about that slow stitching methods of working and what that does for kind of, I guess, for the soul, but what that does just for your own energy and for your own well-being. Like, tell me a little bit more about that for you and that journey.
I like to split my life up into pre-parenthood and now in the middle of in the thick of it, parenthood.
The afterlife.
And so my day job, I work as a chiropractor, and I work with brain and I work with my hands, and it's intense in both ways, hands and brain. And when I used to get home, I would have itchy hands and itchy brain. I needed to do something. And so I would be talking with Marisa. We'd be watching television. I'd be doodling. I'd be playing with a dog. I'd be on my phone, almost all at the same time. And what I found when I started quilting was that it rained all those, there was almost a level of anxiety, and it rained all of that in. And so now I really enjoy the repetitiveness of a lot of different parts of my quilting process, from the deconstruction all the way to the final hand quilting and binding and those aspects of it. And so when I'm talking about the meditative quality, I'm talking about a lot of repetition. There's a beautiful monotony to those kinds of activities.
Yeah, I get that. I feel that even though I do a lot of machine work, I feel, and I was talking about this with a friend the other night, like there's this almost fluidity between myself and what I'm creating. And it doesn't, there's no disconnect there. It feels like I am part of what I am doing. And I know, of course, I am logically, but it goes kind of deeper than that. There's this rhythm that comes with it that allows me to just kind of, I don't know, settle in almost. I think it's really good for our brains to do that. And I know that people do that inherently when they're doing creative tasks. They are doing that, whether they know it or not. But I think having the mindfulness of it, the awareness that, oh, this is calming me down. Oh, this is making me feel really good afterwards. Like, and all I want to do is do this. I think having that acknowledgement and awareness is really good for our bodies and our minds and our well-being. I think that's an important piece in it. It's that slow stitching movement, right? With mindfulness.
I think it's necessary for all of us, especially for a lot of people who aren't doing it. And it's slow stitching. You can talk about it in that context, but it's meditation. It's a form of meditation. Yeah. And if we all did that regularly, any sort of meditation, this world would be a much different place.
I think so too. I think that it's going back to that piece around sustainability, which is why you and I are here talking to each other. And sustainability doesn't have to be this great big save the world thing. It's really starting with ourselves, our individual selves, and getting to a really good grounded place where we feel connected to the land and to the environment that we're in some way, and that we are able to have positive movements forward. And so doing all of those things aids in that, right?
Absolutely. And something just came to me just now as your last few sentences. I think I've become a better person as a result of this making. Yeah. Been more aware of a lot of different things, of myself, my mindset, but also the bubbles and the ripples out, the environment and other people and different different social topics as well. I've been more aware of a lot of different things. So for me, I think I've become a different, improved person because of it.
That's amazing. It's awesome. I feel the same way. I feel like that is me getting my feet on the ground and feeling well allows me the space to connect with other people and to see the world around me and to maybe feel like, oh, I could maybe make a difference over here. I could maybe change this. And yeah, it gives you that space. So really, when you are taking care of yourself, you're also taking care of your community because you are allowing yourself the space to do that, right?
Oh yeah, that's now I'm thinking in a very different direction. That's wonderful. Thank
Yeah, no, thank you. It's I think an important piece that people don't give themselves credit for, I think.
I agree.
And it is the piece of sustainability that has to happen. The sustainability are those three pillars: the people, profit, planet. Planet's huge, important part. The economics of how we function in this world is a huge, important part, but the people are at the core of all of it. And if we are not okay, then the rest of it's not okay.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Well said.
Yeah. I think we could probably talk for like another half an hour or an hour easily. Let's talk a little bit more about what your projects are right now and what you're hoping to do. Tell me a little bit about that.
I've got a few things in the work. I showed you one of them. I showed you 2 panels of I call it my select-a-size quilt. And
Select-a-size, I like that.
That one's been inspired by your paper towels.
Cool.
The ones that you can rip off this section, this much or much.
Yeah.
And so I actually designed this paneled quilt with the zippers. I actually designed it, and it's to scale, matching up with one of the big brand ones that have the extra perforations.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'm in the process of hand quilting that now with reclaimed thread. And you can see a little bit of that there.
Yeah, I can see that. It's beautiful hand stitching. So you're doing a longer stitch. It's not like you're not trying to get 12 stitches per inch or anything in that. You're doing longer.
Definitely not 12. Sometimes I vary it up. Sometimes they're a little longer stitches. One of my recent finishes was with tighter stitches, and my fingers still hurt. Just multiple layers of denim, reclaimed thread.
Do you use a thimble? Do you use a thimble when you're stitching? Oh yeah,
yes.
Look at that. So it's a leather thimble,
and it's a leather thimble made from a leather patch from the same jeans.
Oh, cool.
I have several of those laying around.
The Levi's label on the waistband.
Not the Levi's, because that's not leather anymore. Maybe it was at some point. That's like a cardboard that tears pretty easily. But some and still use a good thickness of leather, and it's the perfect size. And it already has the stitching holes, so I can work my own thread and make it into a cylinder.
Okay, yeah, and then you just whip stitch it together.
And then just whip stitch it together. And that works for me. And these leather thimbles are the only ones that stand up to the type of heavy handwork that I've been doing.
I have a collection of thimbles from my mother, who was a sewer for years and years, and she, her mother and her grandmother were also sewers over in England. They both worked in the cotton mills, and so I have an old thimble from my grandmother, and it's got this beautiful ridge on the edge of it, and it just fits perfectly on my finger, and it just holds the needle. It's this flat end with this ridge, holds the needle really well, and I've got really small fingers, and it fits me perfectly, which just makes me feel so good. I feel like I'm stitching with my great grandmother. It was her grandmother's, so it's my great grandmother.
Oh, that's pretty dang cool.
Yeah, it is really cool. And I have this whole bowl full of, actually, are they right here? Oh, they were here. I don't know where they are now. A bowl full of thimbles. So,
wow.
Yeah.
You're somewhat of a collector too.
I am for some things. I try not to hang on to too many things that I don't think I will ever use. And I was a few years ago, there were several people in my life who passed away. A close neighbor who actually was a very close family friend, and I was responsible for cleaning up all of his stuff. He lived alone and he had no family. And so I had to deal with all of his stuff. And he had saved, like, he even saved the receipts from a storage locker in 1975 in Vancouver. I'm like,
Wow.
why are we keeping this? What do we need this for? I don't
Yep.
know.
Yep.
And he was a collector of books, and this huge 1,500 books collection. Some of them were very valuable. So I had to deal with all of that. And then my mother passed, and she was a quilter, and I had all of her sewing stuff, and then all of her personal stuff as well. And then my father passed, and I had all of his stuff to deal with. So I have a little bit of, and I don't mean to make light of PTSD, because I'm not making light of it. It was very traumatic for me to deal with all of those deaths very close together, and suddenly be having to deal with the lives of these people as well. It was a huge responsibility, and it felt very overwhelming to have what basically was the sum of their lives. And I was the one charged with having to unravel that. And I live in a small house. I don't have a lot of room for stuff. And then my partner also passed away, and he was a hoarder and collector of things. And I had to actually I removed 21 tons of refuse, which includes cars, off of my property in the last 3 years.
Wow.
Because he collected things, and he did a lot of stuff with machinery and mechanics and motors and engines and boats, and I just had so much stuff. So I get a little, I suddenly sit on edge when somebody says, "Oh, you are a collector of things." I'm like, no, I'm not. But I actually, there are some things that I feel very attached to, and
Yep.
and I do hang on to. My mother's thimbles is one of those things. I have a collection of irons. I do have far too many sewing machines. And there are, so yes, I do have things. I still have too many books and that kind of stuff. But yeah, I try not to hang on to too many things, because it feels oppressive and overwhelming. But that's just because of my story, not because of...
And I'm sorry for your losses. And it feels like those processes that you went through, that you have been going through, that you are going through, have definitely influenced your thought process on collecting and how much.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a constant struggle, because I see the value, like, in what you're doing when you're deconstructing and you're collecting things to be able to remake and do really wonderful circular things with those materials. I go into thrift shops and I buy bed sheets and I buy tablecloths, because I want to save them. I want to rescue them. I don't want them going off to a landfill, and I want to be able to make something beautiful with them. But then I have this other thing on my shoulder going, but don't go too much. Don't, you can't have too much, because I've been through this big process over the last 5 years of having to read. And I feel like I get this moment where I'm like, well, I don't want to do this to my kids. I don't want to leave all this for them to have to deal with as well. And I don't want to have too much for my kids as well, because I just went through all of that. So those are things that I'm working on. I'm still processing all of it.
We all are working on them.
Yeah. I want to thank you so much for talking with me today. Tell me how people can see what you're working on, see where you are.
Thank you so much, Bridget. My main source of output is on Instagram, and you can see me at Made or Remade, all one word, Made or Remade. And that's, I just looked recently, and it's been almost a year since I posted last, because of all these marbles that we
are all over the place. Yeah.
All over the place. But I hope to start back up soon, and maybe make some Instagram appropriate videos and reels and stories.
Yeah, I mean, seeing your process is so awesome, and seeing what you're showing me your quilts, but that's not necessarily going to be seen in this podcast unless I happen to release the video section of it. But it's so cool to see the work that you're doing and see what I love about the stuff that you've got is you're not really choosing same palettes. Like you're in your denim, but it's all over shades of denim, and you're not necessarily trying to just have a monochromatic solid of color. The variation in color really gives it movement and gives it another life. And then I start thinking about, well, whose jeans were those? Who's wearing those?
I think about that as well. That's a wonderful compliment. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I love that part. And I think that the jean work, I think what you're doing is really super cool. And it's not just because it looks cool, because it does. It totally looks cool. And you're doing beautiful craft. The craftsmanship is amazing. But it's the story, that deeper story behind everything that you're doing, and the mindfulness with which you're approaching every single piece that you're putting together with the next piece. There's intention behind that, and that you feel it. You feel it when you see the pieces.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, thank you so much for this. This is really,
of course. Thank you, Bridget.
A great conversation. So thank you for joining me today for this talk with Eliu. I hope you really enjoyed that. I thought it was really interesting to dive into some of the topics we went around with intention and mindfulness and some of the cool tools that he uses to deconstruct his fabric. I thought that was really fascinating. And I enjoyed sharing some personal stories with Eliu as well. It was kind of nice to be able to be honest about all of that stuff. I hope you enjoyed the show today and look forward to talking to you again next time. If you're interested in a community that engages with sustainability in quilting and textiles, you can join the Learning Hub at bridgetoflaherty.com. There you will find memberships, online courses, supplies, and resources for sustainability and my textile art. You can also book me to speak with or teach your group. You can find me on social media at The Sustainable Quilter. Don't forget to comment, like, and share, and to follow me on your favorite podcast app so you won't miss an episode. Thanks for joining me, and I'm so excited to share this journey with you. Until next time, happy stitching.